We're doing this every day and even several times a day. We're using both the marvelous technology, but also the challenge that our times present to morph our capacity to curate, to collect, to generate engagement content using social media. We're here live on Facebook, but we're also streaming this to YouTube. Our intent is that as we develop capacity, muscle, ability in this arena, that we'll be able to share simultaneously these rich, robust conversations across several platforms, including Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter, and even Periscope. So we want you, if you're connected, to support this, enjoy it, benefit from it. If you can, start a watch party on Facebook and let your friends know this conversation is going down right now. Beyond that, like it, share it, and raise questions, make statements, let your voice be known. We're monitoring the Facebook feed. This is at the Insight News Facebook page, also at Al Mcfarlane on Facebook, and on YouTube at Al Mcfarlane 1815. That's our address on YouTube. This morning, we have the pleasure of connecting with the organization Youthprise. Its mission is to increase equity with and for Indigenous, low-income, and racially diverse youth. Joining us is the Vice President of Youthprise, Marcus Pope. Marcus, good morning. How you doing, brother?
Good morning, Mr. Mcfarlane.
Glad to have you here. And along with Harry Colbert, Managing Editor of Insight News, we're pleased to engage with you. Let's start off, though, by giving people sort of the Youthprise 101. You are an important organization, a necessary organization, but a productive and beneficial resource for our community. Let's let people know exactly the range and scope and the vision behind the Youthprise proposition.
Yeah. So Youthprise was founded in 2010 by the McKnight Foundation, essentially to ensure that all Minnesota youth thrive. So we're not a direct service provider. What we do is we mobilize and leverage resources to support youth programs and initiatives and young people directly all across the state. We're a public charity grant maker / community foundation. Each year, we grant out between $4 and $6 million in the community, and we invest roughly another $2 million in initiatives that are supporting young people directly, advocating for policy system changes and reform, or providing training to organizations to ensure that they're implementing best practices in serving young people across the state.
And one of the things you're doing right now, like everybody else, is analyzing what that means in the age of COVID-19. I want to introduce my colleague on the program, Harry Colbert Jr., I said, managing editor of Insight News. But Harry, you and I, let's connect on this conversation. A lot of organizations and institutions are being challenged. Many are closed. People are working from home. How is your work affected by COVID-19? And what does it mean to the delivery of the services, not direct services, but of the mission that you all have at Youthprise?
So what we do is we help organizations serve more people and to serve them better. And when COVID-19 hit, the organizations we're concerned about were hit as well, in terms of youth programs that have to think differently about how do they deliver programming. Their revenue sources are strained, particularly if they rely on individual donors or if they have government grants that require them to provide services that require face-to-face interaction. So the organizations that we're concerned about are thinking differently about how to do their work. They're strained. And then young people, which is the ultimate group we're trying to impact, are also strained in a number of ways. So we really took a huge pivot mid-March. It really focused on a few things. One, we wanted to offer flexibility to the organizations we supported. So if we were supporting them to do specific things, if it was around workforce or if it was around tutoring or technology, we wanted to offer flexibility so that they could use those resources how they see best fit to respond to the crisis. Another thing we pivoted to look at was food. We we recently hit the 1 million meal mark in terms of delivering food to after-school programs, churches, libraries, community centers this year in January. But we really had to ramp up our food program. We had to work to get sites back open. For example, rec centers, community centers, libraries who are closed. We had to think of alternative ways for them to provide food, given the need for food at this time. So we've been working with the counties, with the cities, to get sites back open so that programs can deliver food in a way that's safe, utilizing social distancing. We also really wanted to think about, we work with the counties around providing individual supports to families, helping families get food, get clothes, basic needs, rent support. And so we've been working with counties to really ensure that we're helping families and we're getting gift cards to families, food to families, anything we can do to really respond during this unprecedented time.
Well, one of the other things that you're doing is right now, young learners are learning from home, and some people don't have the adequate equipment.
Yes.
But Youthprise has stepped in there. Talk about that.
So we have an initiative called Minnesota After School Advance. And what we do is we help low-income families making $35,000 a year or less, access driver's education for their children, tutoring, after-school activities, performing arts classes. And this is a $250 million tax credit, and only about between 12 to 15 million is used on an annual basis. And so we were really concerned about that. This is an important resource for low-income families, families of color, and it wasn't being used. So what we did is we partnered with the Venn Foundation, and we reached out to individual donors to establish a loan fund to essentially give loans to families to be able to access this credit, which was a huge barrier. As you know, the way tax credit works, you spend the money up front and you get the credit sometimes more than a year later. And if you're a family making $35,000 a year or less, you don't have you don't have the money to front. So we eliminated that barrier in terms of the cash flow to really support the program. So initially, we weren't working in the area of providing laptops. We were strictly focused on summer camps, after-school activities, performing arts classes, and such. But when COVID-19 hit, we realized that distance learning was the new reality, and we wanted to use this tool to help families access distant learning opportunities and to have the equipment necessary. Some districts provide equipment, others don't. And there's a huge need for resources to help families access laptops and computers. And so that's what we did. We reached out to the community. We got on Facebook. We got on social media. We reached out to existing families. And thus far, we've deployed over, I think, about 200 laptops to families. There is a family contribution, and we've scholarship the family contribution. I think we've offered over $7,000 in scholarships to date. We worked on supply chain issues. We were working with trying to access computers through Amazon, Best Buy, everywhere. And as you can imagine, the supply was limited. So we worked out an issue, and we purchased Chromebooks by the pallet. In addition to helping families through Minnesota After School Advance, we've also helped other youth programs.
So you've got an inventory of Chromebooks right now, apparently, right?
Yes, we have an inventory.
I'm asking the question, how many Chromebooks are on a pallet?
So we just purchased a pallet of 200 Chromebooks, and I think we're probably down to less than 100 now.
Okay, all right, yeah.
So we're looking at, we need to make another purchase, but a lot of programs, small programs, are trying to access Chromebooks to really transform their programs. Mm-hmm. So in addition to supporting individual families with Chromebooks, we've been connecting with youth programs who are in need of Chromebooks and helping them get them at a low cost, as well.
That's wonderful. That's great. Harry, another question? Go ahead.
So you mentioned the income, $35,000 or less. What are the other kind of barriers or qualifications that someone would need to participate?
Yeah. So income is a huge barrier. Just navigating the process of securing the credit and doing your taxes correctly is another barrier that we help families with. Understanding what's eligible and making what's eligible available, so linking families with the opportunity in a way where they know the credit will work, and they won't be disappointed at the end of the year when they do their taxes. Even now, with the role we play in terms of basically fronting the money for the family, there's about like 26 steps that a family has to go through to work with us. So one of the things we do is we do policy advocacy. We just had a Senate Tax Committee hearing this morning where we're advocating to raise the income guidelines. This credit has been in existence for 20 years, and the income guidelines haven't adjusted for inflation. Mm-hmm. So you have families on free lunch, and they can't access this credit to be able to provide opportunities for their children. And so that's something we're working on to change.
Yeah, because you can have a family that's making $45,000, but if you've got 3 children in the household and childcare and other needs of that nature, it certainly stretches the budget for sure.
Absolutely.
I wanted to ask you, Marcus, to talk about your own personal path and how you've come to the work. You obviously are passionate about what you do, and I want to compliment you on the dedication that you and your colleagues bring to the service of our community. Compliment the organization Youthprise for both vision and results that it delivers. But how did you come to this work? You're a St. Paul native, I understand?
Yep. So I grew up in Frogtown in St. Paul and went through the St. Paul public school system. And very early on, I got connected to high quality opportunities at places like the Hallie Q. Brown Center and at the Science Museum of Minnesota. And so I had opportunities to learn and grow and develop, in addition to the support I had from my family. And that stuck with me, that struck me. So when I got in school, I took an early path into youth development. That's what I wanted to do, to work in the area, to have an impact on young people in the community. So I started out early working, for the Science Museum, directing camps all across the metro area, and then worked in an adolescent shelter. Had an opportunity to direct youth programs in North and South Minneapolis through the Neighborhood Involvement Program. And then took a turn in my career while working on my master's at the University of Minnesota, and worked for an institute focused on violence in the Black community, the Institute on Domestic Violence in the African American community. Some of you are familiar with Dr. Oliver Williams.
Oh, sure.
Who's been a leader in that work. So I worked for him for a number of years doing national training, technical support to federal grantees and to victim service providers on how to address that issue from a culturally relevant perspective. And we also did some national policy work, publications, special issue journals on the issue, chapters, books. Dr. Oliver Williams did a lot, busy man.
Prolific, prodigious, yeah, right,
yeah, certainly. Done a lot of work. And so worked for him for 5 years, and I got connected to him while working in the youth development department at the School of Social Work. And then, and if you know Dr. Williams, he travels a lot. So I was traveling a lot with him and wanted to take a turn and kind of be more local and have more local impact. And the Youthprise, when McKnight Foundation was starting Youthprise, Woki invited me to be a part of her team, her leadership team. Woki Wea, our president and CEO, to be a part of her leadership team, which was a great opportunity that I couldn't say no to. And so I've been at Youthprise for 9 years. In November, it'll be 9 years.
Well, congratulations. I often ask our guests, and particularly our people, to talk about where they come from, in the sense of, we acknowledge that we stand on the shoulders. And you've done that by talking about both Oliver Williams and Woki Wea, but also your family. And I mentioned to you before we went on camera that my family is in part from Mississippi, my wife's family, Mississippi. And though you mentioned St. Paul, I like to ask my guests to talk about their mom and their dad, their grandparents. What is it in the lineage that brings you to this point of service and of expectation in your personal life?
Yeah.
So brag a little bit about who you
Yeah.
are and who got you here.
Yeah. Well, I come from a family of servants, serving the community, and serving a higher power. And as you mentioned, I'm from my family comes from the Delta region. Both of my parents grew up, in that region in Mississippi. And it's, I say the heart and soul of me is from Mississippi because that's where it comes from. And, one person that had a huge impact on my life is my grandmother. She died at, I think it was 93, in 2006. So I got to spend a lot of time with her and learn a lot from her.
What was her name?
Letha Tyler.
Okay.
And she had an 8th grade education because that's all the opportunities that a lot of times a woman of her generation could have.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a lot of cousins who have advanced, a lot of us have advanced degrees and very important titles, but none of us would ever say we were smarter than our grandmother, and she would never allow it. And we knew that, despite the formal education. I have a value of our elders in our community who have, like you said, that we are standing on to be in the positions we're in right now.
So given that, how do we address what we hear from time to time, the perceived or described disconnect between young people and elders? I think there's some language there, but the language is more than the reality. I think that there is beneath it a sense of continuity and a sense of movement and continued development that really characterizes the long arc of our movement as African people in the West. But I know too that every generation is anxious to make its own mark and to do its own work, to follow its calling. How do we do that from your point of view right now? And where do you see us going in the future to protect both legacy, but also to dream a future that reflects the gift of our existence? What do you think?
That's a great question, and I'll touch on that. I just want to, Woki would be upset if I didn't mention one thing that's relevant to your question. One thing that's unique about Youthprise is our structure. We believe in youth-adult partnerships. Mm-hmm. So our board structure is half of our board members are young people between up to the ages, and we define young people up to the age of 25. So we've intentionally, when you talked about our mission, with and for, include those who we're trying to serve in our leadership structure, and we think that's important. So, but to get to your question, I think it's a very important question. We're so polarized in our society in so many areas, around race, around age, around geography, that I think it's a huge barrier to progress. And I think we need mutual opportunities to engage one another, to listen to one another, and respect each other's realities. Having a grandmother that lived so long, there's certain things that are instilled in me around the struggle that those who came before me, that there's no way I wouldn't appreciate that. Mm-hmm. The reality is we have some young people that don't have the connections to that legacy, are further away. My oldest grandparent was born in 1900 in Uniontown, Alabama. And so we have some folks my age, I'm 39, who don't have, as strong of a connection to the legacy of slavery, Jim Crow, segregation, and so forth, so that it's hard to understand because of their proximity to the issue. And so I think we need opportunities to dialogue. And with younger folks, given our age makeup, people call me old at Youthprise, or some of the staff. So that, and that tells you something about kind of where we're at and how disconnected we are. So I think we need more opportunities to engage across generations. And I think we need to do it openly, across both sides. I think elders, And I understand the elder, you listen to your elder, and that's what I come from. At the same time, I've grown in my work at Youthprise in terms of listening to young people telling, offering their perspective. And I've grown from hearing their perspective. I may not agree with everything, but I think I've grown, and I understand kind of the context in which they live and how it may be different. And I understand how may not have certain connections to history and legacy, and experiences that I may have had the privilege of being connected to, given the people I've had in my life who have elders and had certain experiences. So I think we just have a disconnect across our communities in a number of ways, because everybody's so segregated by age, by race, by geography. And I think that's and socioeconomic status. I mean, I think we have folks who have achieved certain wealth and certain class status that may not connect to certain young people in certain communities, even within our own community. And I think that's something we have to reconcile. I think one of the things historically, back in your day, there was a sense of collective consciousness, because I think everybody felt like they were in the same boat, correct me if I'm wrong. And I think when we talk about Black people now, I don't know if everybody is identifying with one another in the same way they may have back in your day. And I think that's something that we need to address, and address across generations, if we're going to have progress and we're going to be unified to uplift our entire community, Black community specifically.
So let's close on this note. Let's say that you're right in your analysis and expectation, and that we are effective, successful in addressing concerns like that. In your mind's eye, what does the future look like? If you could project your vision, your dream out, say, 50 years, where will African people be? Where will people be based on the values and the experiences that we are bringing to community and to the planet? What do you think?
I think the future is bright. We have work to do, but I think the future is bright. I see our elders sticking in and sticking with it. And I see some amazing young people who are passionate and committed to this. So I think in our legacy, our pedigree is strong. So I'm confident, but I'm not naive about the work that we need to do together.
Great comment, great answer. Harry, final questions or comments?
For someone who is interested in the programs, do you have some web addresses for us for Youthprise, and also to access the tax credit or laptop?
Yep. If you go to www.youthprise.org, you can access information about Minnesota After School Advance and our different grants. We also, the interview went quick. We also released about over $300,000 in emergency grants to organizations. We focused on organizations primarily led by people of color and small to mid-sized organizations with budgets under $2 million, to make sure we're targeting those most in need and those most impacted by disparities. But we're doing a lot. We can do more, and we're going to try to do everything we can to really be a part of the community and help advance things and get through this pandemic.
We have time. We don't have to rush this. So if you want to say more, please do. And I thought earlier on, Marcus, and I failed to bring it back up, it would be awesome for you to acknowledge some of the work of your partners and community. Tell people if what comes to mind on relationships that you fund and support, so that people get a sense of where this activity is actually developing in the community. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I can talk about some of some of the grants. We funded 31 organizations. Mm-hmm. Of those, 26%, actually 49% were suburban African descent organizations, mm-hmm. That are focused on that. 16% American Indian, 6% Latinx, 6% Asian and Pacific Islander. 10% were focused on low income in greater Minnesota, because that's another, and then 6% serving multiple communities. Some organizations you may be familiar with: JK the Movement, Juxtaposition, Kaju, We Win Institute, Walker West Music Academy. So a number of organizations
Great organizations
that are doing great work.
Yeah.
And we're going to do everything we can to continue to support these organizations. And they receive $10,000 emergency fund grants.
Mm-hmm.
We hope to do more throughout the year, but we tried to do something really quickly and kind of we know it's tough times for organizations. Now, another thing we're doing is we're working with the city and the county to roll out food distribution in certain communities and at certain sites in St. Paul. We hope to do that in Hennepin County as well, to expand our work there, to get meals for evening meals. School districts are doing a great job of breakfast and lunch. We want to get evening meals and weekend meals to families. We've done some one-off kind of getting gift cards to groups that are doing food distribution and grants, emergency grants there. So
Great,
that's that.
wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Marcus Pope, Vice President of Youthprise. Article on Youthprise online right now at www.insightnews.com. In the print edition, it'll be appearing is next Monday, the 27th. So look for that article in Insight News. Harry, thank you for co-piloting here as always. And Marcus, one more time, contact information. People want to reach you.
www.youthprise.org. And my email is very simple. Marcus, my first name at youthprise.org. So don't hesitate to reach out to me directly if you have any questions.
Super, Harry.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay,
yeah, thank you.
So Harry,
stay safe.
We're on again later today, right, Harry? We're doing another.
So we'll be joined by Dr. Rwanda Campbell at 2:30 today. So we'll be back here at Insight News Facebook page, and also share to my personal page, your personal page, and hopefully many of the community members will share it as well.
Right, and then tomorrow we're meeting again with our panel of physicians, organized by Dr. Inel Rosario, who's been convening Black and Brown physicians to talk about how we are responding. I think we're going to be joined by a physician who's on the ground also in Puerto Rico. So that'll be another addition for tomorrow's program. And then we've announced that
tomorrow's program.
That's tomorrow's program, right?
Yeah.
It's 1 o'clock, 1 tomorrow, Facebook. And then Monday, we'll come back with sort of launching and continuing the Public Policy Forum, a group of leadership people. We want everybody in the community to tune in every Monday at 10 o'clock, 10 to 11:30, where we try to have an organized and broad approach to community issues, values, challenges, and the voices of leaders and workers, bringing our concerns forward, sharing and enabling each other to be our best selves. Well, I'm Mcfarlane. Thank you for tuning in right now. Like this program, share it. In the future, try to do Facebook watch parties, and we want to grow this engagement, and you are the key. We thank you for being a part of this. Take care. We'll see you later today.
See you at 2:30.
Okay.
Okay, and we are off Facebook.
Good. Okay.
All right.
So I hope that met your expectations.
You were excellent, man. You're good. Perfect.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Appreciate y'all.
I hope it met your expectations.
Oh, this is wonderful. Thanks for the opportunity. We appreciate it.
So share it widely with your networks. We're doing a project that we call the Mcfarlane Media Dashboard, and I'll have one of my guys give you a call to see if this is something that you could support, you all being a part of, and some of the agencies you serve. And what it is, long and short, is a mechanism for attaching your Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram accounts to a dashboard, and allowing each of us to share stories, content across dashboards. And we've discovered that with the 11 or 12 organizations connected so far, we're able to share content to over 1 million people in the course of a month. So our goal is to get about 50 organizations on board. And we think that if we do that, we'll create a social media reach well in excess of $2 to $3 million people on an ongoing and regular basis by cross promoting. So we'll reach out to you about that.
Wonderful. Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. Take care. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks, Harry.
All right. Thank you.